Welcome back to the Built on Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Max Hansen, the CEO of Wise Guts, where we find purpose-aligned and performance-proven leaders. Speaking of, today our guest is Cal Callahan. By the way, I figured when I was going through your stuff, you go by Cal from your last name, right?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
How do we say it? Let's get that out of the way. I've known Cal for a while, too, so to straighten this out is great right now. Cal is someone who did what most people only dream about. He walked away from a successful life that he didn't feel like was his and stepped into the unknown. He's the host of the Great Unlearn, a raw and honest podcast where he explores the truth, masculinity, and transformation with seekers, thinkers, disruptors. Whether in deep conversation or stillness in nature, Cal is a reminder to come back to who you really are. Cal, my brother, welcome to the Built on Purpose podcast.
Ooh, such an honor to be here. I got goosebumps you reading that. That was well done. Thank you.
Stuttered through it a little bit, but
that's
good.
It. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, I'm just going to start with the softball. We've run into each other for probably a handful of years in the summer. We've crossed paths, had some amazing conversations. And I was really looking forward to this one. But just in general, what's the best thing going on in your life right now?
That's a softball and a fucking loaded question. I can honestly say, so I'm 53 and never in my entire life have I felt better. Physically, mentally, spiritually, clarity. I've been through this initiation ceremony, whatever you want to call it. I think a lot of people experienced it over the last 2-3 years. And I think a lot of us got a little bit of a head fake because we came out of 2020 and 2021 like we actually did okay. Like we financially were fine. We found out who our friends are. We're with like-minded people. And then it was honestly like 2.5 to 3 years of some real challenges. And then there were some great times in there too, but ultimately, and when I look back on those, a couple of years, it was really, really hard. The hardest time of my life. And, it sometimes sounds cliche, but that saying that this too shall pass is something that I just tried to remember. And it wasn't that I didn't numb myself with different things, whether it was media, whether it was substances or whatever. Like there were times when it was really challenging and I just needed to distract myself because it was too much to carry. But I'm here today to say that I've been through a few cycles and I feel just really clean and clear about what I'm meant to be doing, who I'm meant to be doing it with. I'm celebrating my 25th anniversary next month with my wife, Peyton. Oof. I guess we're going to get right into it.
I love it. Congrats, by the way, on 25 years.
Thank you. Well, I'd say a couple years ago, I didn't know we were going to make it there. And I don't know that she knew we were going to make it there. And we had our challenges. And I can honestly say today, with an open heart, that I'm so blessed to have her in my life, that she was there for me when I doubted myself, when I doubted a lot of things. And she had faith, and there was certainly a part of me, my soul, that had faith. And I am just so honored to be her partner, and I'm so grateful, and I love her so much. And I just feel so grateful to have awoken to this finally. Like I've known it's there, but I haven't been able to touch it and feel it, and I feel it viscerally. Like these words, I've been searching for them for fucking years. And I felt a lot of shame because I haven't been able to tap into that. And today, it's like the first time, like, in this medium where I've been able to share it, and it's just pouring out. Like, I just have so much gratitude and love for her. And yeah, again, I feel so blessed. And like, look, I stayed on the journey too. Like, I didn't turn away. And so I want to just honor that because there were times when we both wanted to walk away, and there was something that maybe we couldn't put our finger on, but there was something worth fighting for. And I know that's not always the case. And I thought maybe with us, it wasn't going to be the case. Like our kids were going to, they're older now. My youngest is a senior in high school, and not that that was a kind of a line of demarcation, but it just felt like in some ways we were coming to an end. And what I didn't fucking realize is, yeah, that version, that chapter is coming to an end. And it was amazing and it was hard. And we get to dream into this future together with our kids, but in a different way. And it's about us now and what we want to create and what we want to co-create. And I just hadn't been able to hold that vision of Peyton and I co-creating like our life together. And it's our work together and our love together and the things we want to do together. And it's just so clear to me, you know, it's just, it feels like such a burden off of my shoulders. Like the guilt and the shame it's just been washed away.
What, oh man, this is landing with me because, you know, I don't know. I think all of us have a sense of that. I almost feel like one part of me while you were saying that's thinking like, if you don't go through hard stuff, like, what do you have? You know what I mean? I'm suggesting there's people that have perfect relationships, I guess, in theory.
I don't think so.
Yeah. But like, if they don't go through something hard, then what do they have to look back and say like, you know, this is what we've gone through. And then the other question, you know, I just turned 50 and I'm graduating from YPO this year, and I've seen a lot of like other guys in YPO talking about it. And the empty nester thing is a thing. So did that have any impact in bringing like you guys to a different place to saying, hey, like this is a new start, like let's work through this? And it, you know, I'm sure it got harder before it got easier. And you're thinking, hey, let's recreate this. But how much of an impact did thinking about your youngest going to leave the house soon, I would assume, have on this process?
Well, to answer the first part, first, I would say I wholeheartedly agree. If people don't have tension, if they don't have challenges in their relationship, it's like just like with your own personal self, like we learn through challenges. They're not mistakes, they're lessons. And if we can stay in it, we'll get the lesson. And sometimes we got to go back to it multiple times until we really get it. And that's happened for me in this season. There were some knocks at the door over the last, 5-10 years that I didn't answer. And then it knocked the door down. And so same thing with your relationship. I would say that for people who don't have any challenges in their relationship, they're either completely disassociating from it, or they're just not putting themselves into it. Because when you put yourself into it and you open your heart, there's vulnerability. And invariably, we're here with that partner, I think, to work through those pieces that are really challenging. And that partner gets to be, a mirror for us, and in a lot of ways, a teacher and a guru. And sometimes it feels like a father, an angry father, and it feels like a lot of different things. And I now see that Peyton's here as my teacher, as well as many other things. But to answer your question about, my youngest, kind of hitting her new chapter, yeah, man, it's like you're at a crossroads. It's like, what are we going to do? Do we like living together without any distractions of the kids to have us have something in common? And are those interests aligned? Do we see a future together? Like all those things come up. And again, over the last couple of years, I could sense it like, okay, this chapter is coming to a close, whether we're ready for it or not. And I would say that over the last couple of months in particular, it became just very clear to me, and I think as well for Peyton, but I don't want to speak for her, that this is what we're meant to be doing. And I think you're just faced with that decision. Are we going to do this together, or is this our time to move on and start a new life with someone different?
Yeah. What your process, because you're a deep thinker. We're going to get into a lot of this. It's going to be amazing. Already is. But I can't wait to get deeper. How much of it I always believe, at least in the process I have, is like you got to go inside and understand yourself before you can understand anything else. And sometimes that's scary because that we typically are doing that for most of our lives. So for you, your process, how much of it was starting to really understand who you were before you could repair any other relationship or anything external to you.
Yeah, that's the challenging part and sometimes frustrating part, because I knew that intellectually that this was my shit. And that when we were having our challenges, that if we decided to part ways, that I was going to bring my shit into the next relationship. And so I was met with like kind of the decision, okay, do you want to try to find a new partner to work through your shit with? Or do you look at this woman that has been here with you for who she is? And even though, like I said, I couldn't feel it, I knew, maybe at a soul level, not to get too woo-woo, but there was something I knew that I found that person. I would not find anyone better for me. And so whatever the shit I was feeling that made me want to go and leave and run or whatever, it was my shit. And maybe I wasn't ready to face it in that moment, and that's fine. And so I would just kept showing up in my different ways, whether it was to a plant medicine ceremony, whether it was to a retreat, whether it was to listening to podcasts, whether it was to bringing people on my podcast to unpack these things. And it's like surrounding myself largely with like men in men's groups where in a very informal way, we work these things out. We have a lot of the same things come up, and it becomes a space for us to be seen and heard in a safe way where we don't have to bear everything to our partner, because sometimes they're not ready to hold it. Sometimes they're not meant to hold it, and we need to work those things out a little bit. And then we get to go to them kind of more integrated and show our vulnerability. I got to show Peyton the things that made me scared, the things about me that I had so associated with my identity as the provider and being able to say yes to everything for my family. And I was met a year ago with not being able to say that. And that was super confronting for me. And I struggled with it for a long time until I had the courage worked up to share that with her. And she met it with incredible grace, where I had an inkling, or actually I had a big knowing that she would. My body still didn't know that. It still didn't trust that. I was still felt like there was a death. Like, this is who you've built yourself to be. This guy that just makes everything happen. And no is never an acceptable answer for any of my wife or my kids or my friends' needs. And it's like, oh, yeah, I've already provided in that way. I'm being called to provide in many other ways. And I was doing that in some ways here and there, but like, she just wanted my heart. She just wanted my vulnerability. She wanted to get to know me better. The things that keep me up at night, the real me. And Max, it's fucking terrifying because we're not taught that. And we're supposed to be the rock, and we're supposed to be able to take on all comers and protect everyone. And when we feel like that armor has, some weakness to it, it's scary.
Yeah. I mean, what I really respect about you, and Mike watches some of your podcasts, is how vulnerable you are and have become. And I have a guy, it's an episode coming out soon. I don't know if it'll be before this episode or not, but he's a therapist. He's a therapist turned coach. So now he can kind of do both. And I went through a 6-month process with him. I mean, similar kind of stuff that you're going through. And
yeah,
it was, but what he says, and this always lands with me, we talk about it in the podcast, but he's like, as men, especially in business, if you're running a business and you're doing something, that's, I guess, where there's a little bit of pressure, you just learn how to suppress your emotions so much where you're like flatlined. Like, you're not very high, you're not very low. You may do some substances, or there may be some things where you numb yourself. And I'm talking about myself too, but I'm also talking in general. But as soon as you get to the point in your life where you're like, you know what, that's not that fun. I want to know when I'm sad. I want to know when I'm happy. It seems like you started to embrace that more in just the conversation. Like it should be emotional. You know what I mean? You're talking about something that, is probably one of the biggest breakthroughs you've ever had. But so we talk about that, and how much was that the case for you when you think about, earlier in your life and probably a very stressful job, you were just suppressing your emotions for many years, or maybe all the way up until, you had this kind of discovery phase and going through it.
Yeah, no, it's a great awareness. And I would say there were definitely parts of me that were vulnerable, and I could open up about things and I could share some things that were on my heart, but there were those other things that I absolutely suppressed because I had so much invested in that identity, and I could figure it out. And one of my proudest things is that I'm self-reliant and that I can figure shit out and that I can get things done. And I've been able to do that, which is cool. But as the saying goes, when you're a hammer, everything's a nail. And so when doing that, I wasn't allowing anyone, particularly my wife, to be along for the journey, to partner with me, to support me, to love me, to hold me, to just shower me with just the safety that I needed in that moment, where I sought it in myself, and that wasn't terribly safe because I just went to the doing because that's what I knew. And in a lot of ways that worked, but in many ways it didn't. It worked because it got my mind off it and because I had things to show for what my doing produced, but it didn't get me any closer to who I am. It didn't get me closer to my heart. And I know, like, on some level that's like, well, what does that even mean? Like, I'm not entirely sure what that means, but this is what I know. Over the past month, 6 weeks, like, I finally connected to my heart and to who I am. And when I did that, I got to truly give that to everyone around me. In particular, not just my wife, but my dad and my mom, who I think a lot of people carry these father wounds and these mother wounds. And I thought I had made peace with it, and I really hadn't. And it wasn't until kind of a series of events that it became very clear to me that my dad was the perfect dad for me. That while he wasn't emotionally intelligent and emotionally available, he also didn't speak Spanish because no one taught him that. My dad had a really hard upbringing. And so how could I expect him to be a doting, loving father when that was never modeled for him? And so when that finally landed for me, I got to see all the ways that he showed up, all the ways that we didn't have a lot of money. But when I wanted to go away to a boarding school to play an extra year of hockey before I went to college, he made it happen by taking out a loan. When I wanted to go to Amherst College, one of the most expensive colleges in the country, he didn't say, no, son, you've got to go to school here in Maine because that's all we can afford. He said, okay, let's go. He kept showing up. He worked 7 days a week. You know what? So did my mom. And my mom held the emotional container for my whole family while working 7 days a week, while making dinner every night, while protecting me when I fucked up for my dad, like all the things. And it's like all these things opened up to me that I didn't have access to. And I wanted to heal that. I've gone into plant medicine ceremonies just please, grandmother, show me what I need to do to heal with my dad, with my family. And it was a year ago when I said that prayer. And there was something that happened in that ceremony that cracked it open, and I thought that was it. Well, it wasn't it. It took a full year for it to come to, fruition. And I can sit here today and say fully that is healed in me. And then with my mom, I didn't even realize that I had anything with her. And she is the sweetest, most incredible mom you would ever want. And yet there was a wall up for me that I couldn't explain. And again, I had all this guilt about it. Like, my mom's amazing. What is it? And it was that I just didn't see all the sacrifices she made, how hard it was for her, how hard her life was. Like, to be frank, my dad wasn't a saint. And she had to hold that while staying in the relationship because she told me she wanted to make sure my sister and I were okay. And so she stayed married for 40 years when she knew when I was in utero that it was over. She stayed another 30 some odd years. Like, it just blows my mind. The courage it took, the selflessness to basically throw herself on the altar for the good of me and my sister. Like, I just had never seen that. And now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it. And so it just has unlocked something in me. I don't even know how I got on that, but this is the inner work, I guess. Yeah, it's like, just keep showing up, and you just don't know when it's going to happen, but just keep showing up and it'll surprise you. I promise.
Well, you're on the topic of your dad and dads in general. And this guy, I went through this and that work, this was back in 2021 when I first went through that with the guy's name's Andy Maurer. And a lot of people that I know have gone through that program since. So they know kind of what it was. But his question, I don't know the way he worded it. I probably won't word it as elegantly as he did. But he's like, so tell me about how, or in general, he's like, most people's fathers, they're not like, they don't ask them how they're feeling and all those things because they were never taught that. And so in some shape or form, it takes us to really break that cycle. It's not that our dads didn't care. They cared. They just didn't know any better because their fathers would have never been like, so how are you feeling? And why are you feeling that way? And like, talk to me more. Like, they don't have that conversation. So it's incredible that it sounds like you've broken through that cycle and you probably have those conversations probably better than your dad did with your kids.
Yeah, and I think that's where we as men, we make the mistake. We say, well, fuck, I'm so great to my kids. I love them. I hug them. I tell them I love them. I kiss them. I do everything. I show up. I'm there emotionally. And it's like, why couldn't my dad be like that? And then you have this fantasy about how other dads were like that when you were growing up, but your dad couldn't be. And it's like, okay. And I thought about this a lot, particularly recently. And it's like, to your point, they were never taught. And I just hope people, men in particular, listening to this right now, that this lands for you, because this was shared with me in a men's group that a friend had organized because his dad had passed. And we all got together. We didn't all know each other, so we gave a little bit about our story, and we talked about our relationship to our dad. And one of these brothers shared a really, really intense relationship with his dad. And they had a major reconciliation. And what he said that really landed for me is that his dad grew up in much tougher circumstances than even he did, which was hard to believe, but I believe him. And that landed for me, and I took that, and that was the medicine I needed. And what I realized is I held this narrative, I held this story. My dad wasn't there for me. My mom was working. I had to get shit done. I have resilience. I'm self-reliant. I'm all these things. They gave me these great gifts. I'm grateful for that. Like, I got to that point, but I was still holding this narrative that they weren't there. And that was what was happening for me. Is it was went from adaptive when I was a kid, because I was trying to earn love and, not get in trouble and do all those things. And so I kind of birthed these gifts out of that challenge. And then it became maladaptive because that's all I associated with was the provider, the guy who shows up in those ways and gets good grades and whatever that means in, 53-year-old, parlance. But what I realized is when I let go of that narrative, when I actually rewrote it, which I was able to do when I saw how perfect my mom and dad were and all the sacrifices, the immense sacrifices that they've made, that I would be honored if I make those same sacrifices in the way that I can to my kids, like to that level, when I felt it viscerally. And like I said, I can't unfeel it. I was able to let go of that piece that was no longer useful for me. So I got all the gifts of that narrative that the 7-year-old boy, that was my perception. Was it true? No. But as a 7-year-old, that's what I felt. And so it was true for me. And so I adapted. And again, like all these things, the amazing things came out of it. And now it's no longer useful to have that narrative. And so I'm able to let it go and then start to reintegrate all the pieces of me, the pieces that I was ashamed of, that are no longer, that I'm working on, like rewriting those narratives. And it's like just taking your time and working on these scripts and letting them go.
Yeah. Shit, man. I've got some narratives that I've rewritten, but a lot that I still need to write for sure. And thinking about that. My dad passed almost 8 years ago now. It's actually kind of how I ended up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where I know we get to spend our summers together. He always, since I was 10 years old, my parents got divorced when I was 6. I went back and forth to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and would spend the summers with him because he lived in Spokane. And he'd take me out on a wood boat to Coeur d'Alene. So we spent a lot of time in Coeur d'Alene. So since I was 10 years old, he'd say, hey, when I die, I just want you to throw my ashes out on Coeur d'Alene. So that's what we did about 8 years ago. I played golf at Geyser, coincidentally, that weekend. Yeah. Me and my brother both bought places up there, and we've been there ever since. So that's kind of how, like, we connected. So I probably never shared that story with you.
I love that.
But same thing. I have this story that I have been able to rewrite. Like, that my dad was a good man. He had same thing. His parents were not that great to him. They're actually pretty in the grand scheme of things, super critical, very hard on him. So anyway, kind of going through, that cycle, and I'm still kind of, this is getting me to think for sure about some other narratives that I have that maybe aren't right. So man, incredible sharing that.
I would just share this, Max, because it can be overwhelming, right? Because we have a lot of narratives. The beauty is, I've found, because I've sat with a lot of narratives, is that maybe it only takes one that is at the root of all of it. And then, like, getting to that, being curious about what that is, that's the opportunity. And then the other ones, as they come in, you just start to see where they came from, this one seed. And so it doesn't have to be a daunting task of like, I got a lot of narratives to clean up. It can be as simple as, I'm going to keep showing up. And then maybe one day that one that's just deeply rooted in me will be the one that unlocks all of them. And then it's just like, it becomes a bit more playful. It's like, oh, I can't believe I believe that. Now knowing what I know and rewriting that old narrative, like none of these other, they don't make sense. They don't play anymore. It doesn't work. And so you don't even have to give them any thought. It's just, they just go away.
Yeah, that's an incredible way to frame it. I've been kind of that is kind of the way I've been looking at it, but I think we're all becoming, and we're all working on stuff. What was talk to me and the audience about the catalyst for the Great Unlearn? I gave a little bit about like how you arrived at that. And by the way, if you guys haven't, if you're listening to this, he's got some insane episodes that, like, they're absolutely insane. The one I listened to one of the compilations, the only thing that was missing from that is I had to like figure out who the voices were, which I knew, like some of them. I actually knew one of the guys personally, so I knew his voice. But in the compilations, maybe in the show notes, it shows who they are. But I'm listening, it doesn't say, hey, this is, it doesn't say their name. But that almost made it kind of better, because then I'm just framing it on like the dialogue and not the person. So if you guys have a chance, listen to the Great Unlearn. But I want to understand how you got there, because there is a backstory that I think is super important to understand you and to understand the show, and for people to, go dig in and find out and listen for themselves.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, man, I guess I had, I'll just start with in 2017, I was in Las Vegas at the mass shooting. And up until that point, like, I was doing what a lot of guys who are successful in, kind of our society's vision of what success is. I was just living a good life. And in that moment, when I was taking cover with a friend of mine behind the tour buses, everything just fell away. And it's like, oh, none of that stuff's coming to save me. Like, what what have I been doing all along? This isn't the game I'm meant to be playing. Like, this isn't the life I'm meant to lead. Like, fuck. Like, in some ways I just surrendered in that moment because I knew if someone were to come around the corner with a gun, like I wasn't going to defend myself. And so I think my body and soul took over, and in getting out of that situation, I was just called to do things differently. And I didn't know even that's what was happening for about a year and a half. But what I realized is I was searching for what am I meant to do here? This big existential inquiry for me opened up in 2017. And then as all these amazing people, as I open up to this, amazing people start to come into my life, people that don't look like me, people that have the same career, like way different. And I'm sharing my experiences with friends that look like me, and we're traders back in Chicago. And I'm like, these guys are amazing, and this is what I'm learning. And finally, I'm like, I'm sick of like communicating these conversations. Like, why don't I just start a podcast where I can bring these new friends on, share their medicine, and then I can broadcast it to whoever wants to listen to it. And we can get into some really deep conversations. And it doesn't have to be my secondhand account, in 5 minutes. It can be long format. And so that's how it came about. And the name, I worked with a close friend of mine, and I had like a bunch of words that like really meant something to me. And he just came up with the Great Unlearn. And it's like, fuck, is that good? So we've been going with that since.
Oh man, I love it. There is so much there. I mean, since I met you, I never really talked about, too in detail about the podcast, but it always fit you. Like the conversations, I'd see your Unlearn gear, which I need to get. So I was looking at it online on your site, but it always,
I'll send you some for sure.
It always fit you. For sure. But talk about like your life, like what you're doing for a professional career before that and the transition. Actually, I don't think we've ever gotten detailed conversation about it.
Yeah. So I was a trader in Chicago as a floor trader. I traded interest rate options from 1995 to 2013. So for about 18 years. And, was a partner at a firm. These guys were my homies, like great guys. Like when you think about the trading world, you've seen the movies. I had the good guys on my team. They were just fucking authentic. They were stand-up guys. They did it the right way. And so these guys were my brothers. These guys were my family. And it just, from 2011 to 2013, it just wasn't working anymore for me. And I guess looking back, I was just called to do something different, called on to greater things. Like that chapter was coming to a close. And I was reading a book called The Way of the Superior Man by David Deida. And there was a part where he talks about that. Like there comes a time, there's a cycle when you're just meant to move on from a project or a job or something. And it's just you're peeling back another layer of the onion. And when I read that, I was literally in a coffee shop. I started bawling. It's like, I don't have to feel like a fraud anymore because I wasn't really showing up like I had been. I was going through the motions. I was there physically, but not committed to it anymore. And so it was a huge burden lifted off my shoulders. I went home immediately, sat Peyton down in our bedroom on our bed. And I said, babe, I've got to lead trade. I've got to lead trading. It's time for me to go. And without knowing what any of that meant at all, again, the grace that she showed, she's like, whatever we need to do we need to sell the house? Are we okay? Like, I just want you to be happy. And I felt it, but I still hadn't seen the full essence of what she was saying. But I felt like that's different. Like she just wants me. Doesn't want the house, doesn't want the guest, doesn't want any of that. She wants me. And so I left trading and we moved to Austin. And it was an exciting new chapter. The kids love it here. I got involved with the National Pro Grid League from 2014 to 2016. I owned a team called the Phoenix Rise, and it was 3 fun seasons that it just didn't work. Cost me a lot of money. But upon reflection, like I realized I learned so much about myself that I loved being around people. I loved not necessarily coaching people, but being there to walk the path with them. And that's part of what inspired the Great Unlearn, the podcast, is I knew that like I wanted to kind of coach in a way. And for the way for me to coach is to bring people on to share their experiences, and then just to share my reflections and my experiences, and not be prescriptive of what anybody needs to do. Like, look, this is what I'm doing. This is what's working. This is what's not working. This is where I continue to fuck up. And it's all good. And it's all good for you too. Like, we're very human. And so from there, in 2020, I launched the podcast, and I've done a lot of venture capital investing just personally. And then recently have opened up a venture studio with a partner of mine, Ty Ward, called Unlearn Venture Studio. And we're starting to talk to some younger brands, that are looking, they're just trying to get off the ground. They've got something, a founder. Number one, we've got to love the founder, absolutely love the founder, and be in it for that. And then, is this something we like, an actual product that we love and support, and would support, amongst our friends if we had no investment at all? That's super important to us. So we need to be consciously aligned. And then we come in and we try to optimize their systems. And then from there, we take them to an accelerator where, a 3-month accelerator where we really work to blow the brand up, in whatever industry they're in. And then from there, we take a little bit of a back seat, and we kind of act as, I guess you say, fractional ownership, where we come in and support where they need it, continue to bring on advisors with the many of different investments that I've made, with those brands that have been really successful, and some that haven't been successful but have learned a lot. Like, bring that wisdom in as advisors to these companies that are kind of going through it for the first time. And so it's been a really fun project that we launched about a month ago. We've been in talks with 2 or 3 different brands that we're potentially working with. And it's just like, I know what I'm meant to be doing for the next 20 years. Like, this is it. It became very clear. And for me, what's exciting, I'll just add, is it's been since 2013 since I've been able to bet on myself. And I've had a lot of tension around that. Like, you keep fucking writing checks for everybody else to do their thing. Like, when are you going to bet on yourself? And I just hadn't had a way to do that. And it feels so liberating to be able to do that. And so now I'm working on, like, I have real estate investments that I'm like bringing the capital back. Like, I don't care. I'll take the penalty to take the money out. Like, I'm betting all of this on us now. Like, I have something that I believe in more than any of the other investments I've been in. It's us and what we're doing. And that's kind of my orientation now into the kind of business world, so to speak.
Well, I love it. It kind of feels like you're able to pour in everything that you've learned, and in this kind of way I'm framing it up, but in the trading world, the business world, but also in personally coaching the right founder. Like, I hear it very clearly. Like, it is finding the right founders that you really believe in. Obviously, you got to believe in the idea too, a lot. But like, I feel like you're going to be able to like crush it, because now you know where you're going to add value, not only from the investment side, but from the kind of almost like a coaching orientation. Because there's not many people, if you listen to this podcast, you'll know what I'm saying. There's not many people that go through as much deep work as Cal. And so now that gets going to be applied to someone else. I mean, I'm like, I can't wait we'll have to talk offline on like what types of people you're looking for, because I run into that stuff like all the time, whether I want to or not. But that's an amazing feeling, amazing clarity that you get to come back and, bet on yourself. And it's because I think you know who you are now, and you're confident in what you can do. Even if it doesn't work out, you're confident in that too, but it's probably likely going to work out because you know what you're capable of doing.
Yeah, it was like, look, there's a bit of tension, like waiting on other people to deliver, especially when you're a passive investor. And I've done so much of that, and a lot of them just, Max, they don't work out. And it took me a long time, fortunately or unfortunately, to realize that I need to bet on the person, period. I don't care what the fucking idea is. If I don't have a deep connection to that founder and their vision and know that they will go to the mat for this thing, then, and if our negotiations are very transactional with it, it's off. Like, we need to be aligned. Yes, we want to make money. We're in this business to make money, but that can't be what we're in the business for. It's an element of it. Sure, it's important, but that's not what gets me out of bed in the morning anymore. And so it's like recognizing that, and then seeing like what could happen to a brand that I not only write a check into, but now we come in and we're on the inside to support, not to fucking meddle, let you do what you do, get you the proper support if we can't do it, get you an executive assistant, get you an ads guy, get these things dialed in so you can continue to work on the business, the things that you be the visionary, and we come in and help you integrate those things. And so it just feels like I needed to go through what I needed to go through to get to this point. I needed to have these last couple of years where, shit dried up. No private equity stuff venture capital stuff was getting transacted. There was no money coming out. There were down rounds. Companies were going out of business left and right. Real estate stalled, had a pullback. I'm heavily invested in all that shit. And it was like, I had this awareness a year ago. I had a good friend, Justin Donald, on the podcast. It was last February. And it was like, oh, I've got to change the playbook. I've got to get out of all this real estate and unfortunately, a lot of it's personal real estate, which, as you know, doesn't cash flow. But I need to get into stuff that's cash flowing, maybe a little less sexy. And so I had that kind of awareness, and yet I hadn't been able to do anything about it because it's like the market wasn't letting me. And it's like I had to sit in that shit for a year until something, it was just less than a year because something unlocked. It was actually about a year later when it finally transacted. It was in February, almost to the day, actually. Holy shit. I just looked. He was on February 16th last year. So funny. I just looked at his Polaroid. And I closed on February 17th or 18th, a real estate transaction that freed me up. And it's like, in that time, I've been just grinding to figure out ways to get capital back and cut expenses. And one thing I thought I was going to be able to do, they said, yes, great. And then they're like, it's going to be a year though until you get that money. I'm like, well, that doesn't fucking help me now. But the beauty of that was it made me get more creative. And it's like I started to let go of something that I didn't need anymore and was a big source of capital. And so it's just all these things that seem like it was shitty. It's like maybe, and it's like it's not. It was like a gift because it showed me that I need to let go of that thing. Like, oh, fuck, that feels really good. And in a year, I'll get that money back. And so it's just just staying in the dance and don't judge it. Just be curious about it. It's okay to be upset. Like, fuck, I thought I was getting that money back in a month. It's going to be a year. It's like, okay, what's be nimble. Like, what else is out there? What else can I let go of? What else can I take a loss on just to have that liquidity? And so it's been such a journey. And I haven't always had this clarity, brother. I mean, it was fucking dark at some points, really dark.
I get it. It's I turned 50 not too long ago, so it's got me in this kind of state of reflection. But I think exactly kind of the road you're going down, my mind goes to I think I started to think about simplification is the beauty. You know what I mean? Less like letting go of stuff and like managing stuff, like little things, big things, like multiple, like whatever, cars, properties, houses, like starting to just like, I don't need all that. And I'm not in a hurry to get rid of it, but like my mindset shifted and I'm coming back the other way. It's almost like the thought of like, I think I saw, I was reading something about, Japanese people think a little bit different. The way they think of art is like taking stuff away, like you're sculpting something. We think of it like, is this blank canvas where we're just fucking pouring paint on our whole entire life. And so it's just different perspective. And so like that's been something I've been thinking about. January 31st, I turned 50 and we had
Oh, hell yeah.
I'll send you a trailer. I didn't invite you, but it probably would have been a stretch. We had a party. It was called Burning Max. It was a two-day,
Let's go. Fuck yeah.
two-day party. And we had one of my favorite DJ the one guy that I'd have, his name's Z-Trip. He's from Arizona. I couldn't even
Z-Trip?
read it. Yeah, Z-Trip played. It was amazing. It was
Dude, we used to listen to Z-Trip back in 2007 at CrossFit, at Windy City CrossFit. I swear to God, the owner, Justin Marcus, loved Z-Trip.
Oh, he's the best.
Holy shit.
So it was a good, but since that time, like, I've been thinking about the whole simplification thing. I mean, it's just, and most people don't think of it like that, but when you start to get to a point in your life where just letting go, simplification, like, it's such a good feeling. And I still have a lot of things to do to continue down that road, but I continue every day moving down thinking, from that state of mind, which is, it's been a fun place to think from versus like, you can only add so much to your life where it just becomes heavy. And, that's the thing.
Well, we see it, you and I see it all around us, certainly in the summertime. And I'm sure, in our regular lives as well. But we were just having this conversation. I had a bunch of my boys over last night, and this conversation came up. And it's like, for me, it was really fun to acquire all these different properties and there was like an addiction to it. There was like a drug. I was like, yeah, let's do that. And we can do that. And it'd be so fun. And like, I realized how much of an anchor those things are after a while, especially when, you got to write a check in January for your, heating bill in Idaho when you're not there for 10 months of the year, right? All those things. And it's like, wow, if I just start to sell all this shit, I can rent the most beautiful place for a month, 2 months, wherever I want in the world, different places, anywhere, way cheaper, someone else's problem, and we just move on. It's like, it's such a classic, like, we go through this period where I think we accumulate until we realize, like, it's not the thing. Like, you're trying to fill a void, bro. It's like, okay, you're right. I didn't think I was, but I was. And so, like, how do I, carefully and thoughtfully move on from some of these things? And some of these things I've just got to burn it down and like, I'm out. But other things, it's like, I'm like careful consideration of like, okay, how much do I need this? Do I need this a part of my life? Is it making my life better? Is it adding to it? Or is it creating a little more stress and weightiness and not allowing me and my wife and my family to live the lives we want to live? And so it's just like, I love this point of reflection and seeing like, oh, this is such a game. And like, what can I let go of? And like, ooh, what would that feel like? And it's like, wow, that feels really fucking good. I've been telling myself a lie this whole time. I need this. If I don't have it, like, I'm going to fucking die. I mean, it's not that, but like, you feel like I don't ever want to let this go.
Yeah. And you made a comment earlier, and I think I picked up on this when we've had conversations in the past, but I think you're like me, where like my parents, I came from very middle class-ish, family that were awesome. Like went to a private school, like all the things that like mattered. But one of the biggest concerns I think all of us have that are like, we're obviously the same age and we have kids the same age. And when I talk about this a lot with guys like yourself, is like, our parents pretty much gave us everything we wanted. You sound like you're pretty grateful. I mean, they didn't have it perfect, but you had everything you wanted. And now when you reflect back, you really understand the sacrifice they made to have what you wanted. And then we work so hard to give our kids more. And then at some point, that more crosses a line where we're like, well, fuck, are they going to have the same motivations? Are they going to be gritty enough to have the same like come up that we had? And so I'm still working through this actually right now. It's like, what, how much do you support your kids and how much? And I think I've already kind of crossed some lines. I'm like, well, I can't go back now. How do you process this? And like, you've been doing some deep thinking, but with like, because we've obviously, I kind of lived together in the same area, so I kind of understand what your kids have seen as well, and vice versa. But how do you like justify that, or how do you think through that?
Full transparency. This is like the first time I've thought about it this way. I 100% have had the same tension you're talking about. Like, fuck, have I kind of fucked my kids up because they didn't have, the challenges that I had, and, the grit and all those things. And it just occurred to me that they're not here for that. Some of them are, but our kids are here for something different. They're going to have emotional intelligence that we never had, that we're working on at 50 and 53. We're still working on it. But because they had parents that were emotionally intelligent, they come up with that as their gift. Now, what is their thing going to be for their kids? I don't know. And I don't know where that, what their kind of emotional intelligence equivalent is going to be that they didn't get from us. But it's their journey. They've got to, like, I do feel like they've got to figure this out on their own to a certain degree with our support. But we can't recreate what we had, Max. We know that. And we fucking rack our brain like, how can I just make my kid tougher? Well, it's like, fuck, do I want him tougher? Because I could be a prick. And there's parts of me that I don't love. And you know what? Maybe my son has a way different relationship with his partner because of how he was brought up and the way he looks at himself and what's important to him. And maybe he's not thinking about himself as the provider. Maybe it's something else. And it's like, I've let go of it in this moment because I know it's whatever I did and Peyton did for them is going to serve them really well. The great things we gave them and the things that we did not give them that they have to go find for themselves. It's part of their journey and we're here for it. But I think it's a fool's errand for us to beat ourselves up about it. And to be conscious of it is amazing. I don't know what I would have done differently, Max. I wouldn't have not bought in Idaho because of it. So what are the fake things that we were supposed to do? Like, I've thought about that. Oh, fuck, I should have maybe said no here. It's like, this is their lifestyle. So, like, learn to live within that lifestyle. And what does that mean? They can still hear no. I mean, they certainly hear no from us, but like, they are having a much more luxurious life than we had. But that's all they've ever known. So they don't have it compared to my life or your life growing up. And so I think we get too caught up in trying, and again, I think it comes from a great place. Like, I just don't want to fuck my kids up. I want to be the best dad possible. And I think this is an area where I'm slipping up, and it's like, no. You're living authentically and you're showing them that. And hopefully they're getting the message that money's great and it's not it. And you got to figure that out for yourself. I still believe that, but it's not it, because I've had that piece and my life has not been good at times. It's been really challenging. And so the proof's in the pudding. I'm not just telling you this. I've lived it and I've experienced it.
Yeah, and I would say, man, thanks for that, because you're getting me to think about other stuff. I'm even rewriting new chapters, in a way, because of the stuff that we have to provide for our kids, different situations that our parents did. Even this year, I have a 6-year-old that was a young first grader. She would have been going into first grade this past year. We're in Idaho talking about this, me and my wife, and we decided, we're like, you know what? She's young. Why don't we just hold her back and take her on experiences for the next year? And then she had to start in first grade last year. Obviously, we're getting back to that cycle. So we've taken her to And my wife is the amazing human that's planned all this. I go to most all of them, so we were on state 36. We're showing her all 50 states and doing a activity in all 50 states.
Oh man.
And so it's been a crazy. Actually, you said you're from Maine. I went to Boston and we went to 4 or 5 states up there a couple of weeks ago, and it was beautiful. But yeah, so I guess when I think about it, I don't feel that bad because I'm charging forward on uncharted territory and doing it on gut, like experiences in every state. I kind of chuckle when she gets in first grade and they're going like through like geography and they're talking about like states. She's like, oh yeah, I've been there. I've been to all these countries, and they're talking about countries. They're going to be like, this girl's lying. But it's been an amazing experience. So I do think you're right. I think just letting go of like, letting go. And I always kind of think through kind of the sports. I assume, you played a lot of sports growing up as well, here in the hockey. And
Yeah.
I just feel bad that kids have to choose like a sport now. Like the funnest thing ever for me was playing all sorts of different sports and embracing all of them and not having to choose. One thing I wanted to ask you about, because I'm just curious, is like, I've known, Cal for probably 4 or 5 years now. I don't know how long. How long have you been up in Idaho?
We've been there since '09.
Oh, okay. So I think we've been up there 7 years. So it's been 7 years.
No, sure, 7 years.
Yeah.
It goes by fast up there.
It goes by fast up there. So one thing, when you're talking about like the types of people that you believe in and you want to coach and bring on and invest in, I have kind of gotten a little bit more bold in my stance. Like, I can tell a lot about a person on like how they take care of themselves physically. I mean, there's a lot more than just that. But when you look at somebody, but for those of you that don't know Cal, he's 53 and probably works harder physically than most like 25-year-olds ever would or dream of doing. But when you think about how somebody takes care of themselves and like how much does that play into the picture physically, like them actually eating well, going to the gym, like doing all the physical things that obviously are going to help mentally. But when you look at somebody and you're judging how well somebody takes care of them, what part of it is physical in how they take care of themselves?
Well, I think the physical does play into the mental and emotional. And so if you're really not caring for yourself there and you're kind of sloppy and overweight, like it's definitely a red flag. It's much harder to get in the door with that, because it just says a little bit about what your priorities are. And it's not your fault, maybe all you care about is your work, and that is your path, and I love that. And I honor that. And that's just not who we're getting into partnership with. Now, you don't need to have 6-pack abs or any of that, but like as long as you're just conscious about like, this is an important part of, the business, my health and well-being. And sometimes it's going to be stretched because it's got to be. Yeah, absolutely. But if it's not, like, again, you don't need to be doing CrossFit competitions. But if it's not important to you, if you're not curious about what foods to eat and you're just shoveling shit out, like if you're eating a lot of junk food, I don't love that. It's like we know enough now. It's like, come on, that's low hanging fruit, so to speak. Like, come on. Like, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I think there's just like, you surround yourself, the 5 people you surround yourself with, you become the average of all that bullshit. Like, it's true. And so if we're going to be in partnership, like, I don't want to be speaking a different language when I'm talking about going to some retreat or I'm doing this. And like, it better resonate on some level. I hope you listen to my podcast and it lands for you. If it doesn't, that's who I am. That's what I'm interested in. And there's a million companies to get involved with. And I only want to get involved with the ones that like, we're not the same, but like we hold the same kind of idea of humanity and what we want to be doing and what health looks like. And again, with our own take on it, but really it's important. And so again, it's no slight on anyone. I've been in different stages of this for sure. But where I'm at right now, if that's not a priority, if your health and wellness and your longevity is not a priority, we're not for you.
Yeah. Speaking of health, I feel like you've always been kind of on like the fringe of, in the positive sense of like things that you do to like help you stay mentally sharp, maybe sharpen the saw. What are some things like that you're thinking about these days, or like that you're into that you think are helping your continuum down that line of like health?
Yeah, I think it changes in different seasons. In the fall, I was just training a lot. I was doing like focusing on like bodybuilding training. Not like I was trying to do a show, but like just rather than heavy breathing workouts, HIIT workouts, I was doing just a lot of strength training, and that felt really good. And that kept me mentally fit. And I would, we have a place here in Austin called Matter, MATTR. It's a bio wellness lounge that I go to 3-4 days a week. And I do everything from the red light bed to this thing called the theta chamber that puts you in a theta state. There's an amortal chamber, which is red light, vibroacoustics, PEMF, sound therapy, and molecular hydrogen 5 tacked into one. And so it's like all these things to support my body as a 52 and 53-year-old to be able to train the way I want to. And now that I'm not training as much, I still go there to try to optimize. So at home, we have a hyperbaric chamber. I'll get in that. We have red light therapy. I do a little sauna here and there. I haven't been in the cold plunge in a while. I haven't felt called to it. I try to get out, in the sun quite a bit. Get a lot of sun on my skin. I drink good water. I make really healthy food choices. I try not to consume too much media, social media. That comes with different seasons. In the fall, I was consuming more than I am right now. And I think just in general, I guess the biggest thing is probably sleep too. I'm going to really, really make sure I make room for sleep. And
I just actually, I just started using a Whoop band. I was using an Oura ring, and I think I was in a good place. Like, I don't like stress about it. I like do it to see where I'm at, and then like I make some adjustments or whatever. But man, I'm kind of liking the Whoop. I think has like the way they think about sleep. They don't stress you out. There's there's REM sleep and deep sleep, and like it shows you a percentage of like what you should get. You either get it or you don't. Then it's with recover and strain. It's been a fun part of the journey. Like I've been in it for a couple of weeks, and I'm like I pay attention to a lot of stuff. I actually we just went down for stem cells again in Mexico.
Yeah.
But this time I topped it off. 90 days prior, I did NK cells. So I did 2 billion NK cells, and then we just got done and finished. So I'm 2 weeks into that. So like it's just starting. Like that's usually the sweet spot. So I'm like kind of like I'm living like a fucking monk right now.
Yeah, hell yeah. So I love that.
I'm good. I'm feeling pretty focused and good. So, but what about anything else? Like I know you've even got some products that you kind of endorse on your site that are interesting. I mean, they're all stuff that you believe in, of course, just based on kind of what I hear. But anything else that you are?
I would say morning, like for my morning supplements, I do like a very kind of, your basic high quality creatine. I do Shilajit from Mana Vitality. Those guys are amazing. They have a great Shilajit product. So I do that every morning. And then I've recently started using a mushroom brand called Eons. And I would say 3 months ago, I started on a microdosing protocol. And so these mushrooms are different. They're not psilocybin mushrooms. They're Amanita muscaria. And so they hit on your GABA receptors. So you don't feel anything when you take them. I don't feel anything. I've taken it every day for the last 3 months. I mean, it's hard. I've been doing a lot of kind of different things. And I was actually, the founder's a really close friend of mine. I was sharing with him last night. I'm like, I don't know where it sits in like how much of an impact it's had, but I know it's on the podium. It's like top 3 of like what has given me like all this clarity. And so I'm a big fan of that stuff. It's called Dialed is their product. And they have a couple of great sleep products that I love that are not psychoactive, and again, not psilocybin. And those have been really good. So I love doing that. Is there anything else? You know what? I'm off caffeine. I've been off caffeine mostly since August. I've had a few stints here and there because I'm trying not to be too rigid about things. Like I can have caffeine and not want it the next day, which feels really good. But there's a product called Update, which again, full disclosure, I invested a little bit of money into, but I love the guys. They've been on the podcast and they basically isolated one of the 3 metabolites in caffeine called paraxanthine. And they made that into, they kind of made their drink around that. And so it's a caffeine-free energy drink that you get the focus and the flow and the energy of the paraxanthine without the jitters or the crash, or some people get some nausea from caffeine. The other 2 metabolites kind of hold those characteristics. And so it's really clean energy. So I've loved that Update.
Nice. Yeah. I like your view on caffeine. I do drink a little caffeine now, but I got completely off it for so long that I feel like I have a different relationship with caffeine. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but
No.
totally different relationship. And it started because I was doing like teeth straightening stuff, so I didn't want to like stain my teeth. I was like,
Yeah.
So I started drinking Celsius. So this is like, sorry, Celsius, if anybody's going to listen to this, but holy fuck, that stuff is terrible for you, because I would drink a Celsius and then I'd go work out. And when I'd get in the gym, I would be woken up, but I would like almost be out of breath and I couldn't catch my breath in my workout. And I was like, jittery. And like, I was like, dude, so I just quit taking Celsius, and I didn't want to drink coffee because I didn't want to make tea. So it's kind of a natural way to like quit, drinking caffeine, but it was like the best thing that ever happened to me to understand. Well, man, you've been absolutely amazing. I'm going to start wrapping up. So I just kind of want to put it out there. And thank you so much for your time today. It's great to catch up with you. Am I going to see you in Idaho this summer?
Oh, yeah. We'll be up there late June, early July for a month or so. Yeah, I think we might go to Europe in early August, just Peyton and I. So, yeah. So that's side on that. But, yeah.
By the way, how would you describe Idaho summers? This would be the last thing that we walk.
Yeah, best place on earth. I mean, the weather's incredible. The land is beautiful, and the air is clean. I mean, our group of friends are hilarious. I mean, it's really just heaven on earth. Yeah, I really love that place.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to start wrapping up. You've been listening to the Built on Purpose podcast. You can listen to all of our past and future podcasts at yscouts.com. If you want to leave us a review, please do so. I just started focusing on putting one episode out a week, and I haven't really asked for reviews, but if you're so inclined, feel free to leave a review. Cal, thanks a lot for your time.